One of my favorite moments around here is to watch on, say, a Sunday morning when kids are walking into worship or on their way out, and they do what any kid does when they see a big, flat, open surface of water, whether it's a pond or the bathtub or the kitchen sink or the baptismal font, and how they'll take just one little touch of water right at the center and send ripples out across the whole thing. It amazes me, even though I am well into my 40s and have outgrown those childlike experiments learning what happens when you touch the water and you make ripples, but it still amazes me. In fact, I think even more so now in adulthood, I find myself captivated by that motion, the way a single dot of action, whether it's a droplet of water or just touching the edge, sends these concentric circles radiating out. I love it. In fact, the more time I spend listening to the stories of Jesus, the more time I find myself thinking that's the image that the gospel writers want us to picture about Jesus and his movement. This person, the single one individual who from one vantage point in one spot on earth starts a movement that sends ripples not just across his town or community, but eventually all around the world. And for Jesus, it's not just troubling the water, sending little ripples across the surface. For Jesus, it's about an outbreak of life wherever he goes. We're going to hear this coming Sunday, the story that starts with some of Jesus' followers grabbing a hold of him when they see that he has this amazing power to restore people to life. And they bring him to the house where Simon Peter, one of his disciples, where his family lives, including his mother-in-law, and she's troubled with fever. And of course, in an era before Tylenol or antibiotics or anything like that, fever is serious business, right? This is something you could get really sick from, maybe die from. And Jesus just casually, gracefully comes right to her, takes her by the hand. The fever leaves her. She gets up and immediately is feeling so well. She gets up and starts helping make dinner and serving everybody in the house. And you might imagine at that moment, okay, Jesus helps his friends. He calls in a few favors, but before long, everybody around is coming to where Jesus is when they've heard Jesus has this ability to bring people to life. So people coming from all over to find Jesus, people who are troubled with sickness or possessed by unclean spirits, people who are troubled in all sorts of ways come to Jesus. And the day ends after the last person has been helped. And the next scene we get in Mark's gospel, early in the morning, before the sun is up, Jesus is out and off by himself praying, as if sort of to get clarity. What's my next move? Am I going to make people come to me? No. In fact, when Simon Peter comes and finds him in his little prayer retreat, Jesus says, after he says, everybody's been looking for you, Jesus says, it's time for us to get moving to other places. Let's go to the other towns and villages around. That's what I've come to do. The movement that starts with one person, one town, starts to ripple out and radiate out. And so Jesus and his disciples start moving outward to all the surrounding towns and villages, and anybody who's sick, who's troubled in whatever ways, Jesus brings life to them. It is this walking, talking image of the way ripples circle outward, always spreading out in every direction. That's what the Jesus movement does. Instead of insisting, you got to come here to meet Jesus, and once you come to this central location, then Jesus might consider your request for help. Jesus insists on going outward into the wider world. That's the important direction for us to keep in mind if we're going to be the followers of Jesus too. All too often, all too easily, we church folks sort of imagine we're the center point, we're the hub. People are supposed to come to us. If they come to us, if they come in our doors, if they come to our club, if they come find us, we'll welcome them, we'll let them in the doors. That's not the direction Jesus goes, is it? Jesus meets his disciples. Once he begins, he sends them along with him, radiating out into the world to bring life everywhere. Where Jesus goes, there's an outbreak of life, contagious even, that spreads from one person to another. Because in Jesus' understanding, God's reign is looking to spread life, God's kind of life everywhere, to fill all in all. That's what we're invited to be a part of as we're following Jesus ourselves. So as we consider what it means to meet Jesus this year in worship every week and in our lives, be prepared. Jesus is never going to leave us exactly where he left us. He's always going to send us rippling outward like ripples on a pond, like circles radiating outward at the baptismal font. That's the conversation we're having this Sunday. So yeah, come join us on Sunday for that conversation, to explore and to worship, and then be prepared. Jesus is going to send us outward like he always does, from the center point, radiating outward into the world that God loves for an outbreak of life. Join us this Sunday. See you then.